Hello and welcome to our fifth Junk Journal podcast. We are here to talk about everything and anything junk journal related. I'm your host, Barbara, and today my two lovely guests are Meg from Meg Journals and Sharon from Mad Paper Crush. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. So in case you're new here, let's have a very quick introduction round. So I've had my junk journal channel for about 4 years now. I cover anything junk journal related, from making your journals, playing in your journals. I love to share my collaging specifically, and I also enjoy having lots of challenges and collaborations to keep you inspired. I also have an online store with digital junk journal supplies. So Sharon, maybe you would like to continue next?
Sure. My name is Sharon and I am from Mad Paper Crush. That's my handle on Instagram. I've had my YouTube channel about 4 years as well. And I like doing any kind of paper crafts. So whether it's making ephemera or using digitals to make different ephemera or making journals themselves, that's kind of what I'm doing on my channel. And I also have an online store over on Etsy, and it's Mad Paper Crush.
Sharon, thank you so much. Meg, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So hi, I'm Meg. I go by Meg Journals on YouTube and Instagram. I've been journaling for a few years now and sharing that on my YouTube and Instagram. You might know that I host Junk Journal January and Junk Journal July and often get those mixed up, but they're super fun challenges. I also have my own podcast that I host with one of my friends, Daisy, over at My Green Cow. We host Crafternoon and we do like interviews and chats with makers, and season 1 is on Anchor, Spotify, etc. And I don't have an online store or digital storefront or anything like that. So
thank you so much, Meg. For our viewers, I'm going to link all of the things we've just mentioned down below in the description box in case you're looking for any of us. So both Meg and Sharon have asked their viewers on their channels what their most pressing junk journal questions are. We have then reviewed them together and decided which ones to tackle in this episode. So if your specific question is not answered in this episode, please go check the link for the playlist linked below. There's a good chance that your question is already answered in one of the previous episodes. So I'd say let's start off with a fun warm-up question. And I believe, Meg, you have one for us.
I do. So the first question I have is, what are your favorite junk journal supplies? So I've kind of gathered a few little bits and pieces. I don't know if you have too, just to sort of show you. So my first one is my vintage floral books that I think I use in every single spread. I don't think there's a journal page that I don't use these. So I've just got like a couple of examples here. So they're kind of like gardening books, and some of them have really beautiful illustrations if I can get it in frame. So this kind of thing. So I love to use those. And then I also have my trusty little corner rounder. I think it just adds a nice finishing touch to a lot of my pages, or if I'm making like tags, things like that. And then finally, I have my tiny little brown ink pad. It's a VersaFine in sepia, and I just think it's really nice as opposed to a black. Softens it a lot. So they're kind of my top 3 supplies. Barbara, how about you?
It's so interesting because mine are totally different, and that's so fun. So I would say my number 1 are scraps. Specifically, maybe collage photo scraps that you have made on the side while making another project. I prefer those really to any printed paper or designed paper by far. My number 2 would be my coffee spray that I always have in the fridge. And number 3, you're gonna have to imagine right here is my sewing machine. It's like it's too large to fit in here, but definitely my sewing machine, which I never touched before working in junk journals. But sewing paper, there's something just magical about that.
So Sharon, how about you?
Well, I was going to say it was really very hard for me to pick just 3 because there are so many. And actually, some of the ones that you said, Meg, and Barbara, that you said are also my favorites as well. Scraps is one of my big ones, but I didn't bring that. So the first thing I brought was actually my paper piercer. So this is what I use instead of an awl. And I like it because it's not tapered. So it gives a nice straight hole. It doesn't get larger if you push it in further. I love this little tool. I don't know. And then I also pulled out my distress ink because I do love distressing everything. I mean, just everything. And then the last thing I pulled out was my hole punch. So I have a circle punch here that I love to use for like thumb tabs on, pockets and different things like that. And, you can use it to make like those figure 8 connectors and things. So those were the 3 that I pulled out.
Awesome. That's so interesting that we picked different things as well. I was expecting us to have some kind of snap moments there.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
And so one of the common questions that I feel like always comes up with supplies that I got a lot, and you probably get a lot too, but it could be quite a bit of a talking point, is what is your favorite brand of glue? Now, I know, Barbara, you said when we were planning this, you could just talk for hours about glue, but I like a trusty Pritt stick. It's going to be reversed, isn't it? But just a Pritt stick.
No, actually, it's the right side around.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Fabulous. Yeah, so I just like a good old Pritt stick. How about you, Barbara?
Interesting. Well, mine has to be the art glitter glue, just because the way it flows is just perfect. And with that small metal tip, you can just glue the smallest scrap and you're not wasting glue and it's not gooing all over the place. So I just love this stuff. I'm hooked.
Have you got charms on it as well?
I do, actually. If anyone is looking for how to make these, there's a tutorial on Tracy Fox's channel. It's from 2018, actually. And if you search on her channel for glue dangle, it will come up right away.
Oh, wow. We're really blinging up our junk journal supplies here, aren't we? Sharon, how about you? What's your favorite glue?
Okay, well, are you ready? Art glitter glue. And I didn't bring my small bottle up that I use every day because the label is like, it's destroyed because I use it so much. But I also, for the same reason as Barbara, I like that you can glue into little pieces of fussy cut and get it to go down. I also like that it grabs very fast. Mm-hmm. So you have to be careful of that, but I love that it grabs so fast and you can quickly, know that you're going to have that piece adhered to whatever you have. So, and I don't have my dangles. I need some dangles.
Yep. Can highly recommend them.
Yes.
It's the little things,
Absolutely.
Okay, Sharon, I believe you have a second question for us.
I do. Okay, so the next question is, have you ever done any other types of crafts? And if so, do you still do them? So Meg, would you like to give us your answer first?
Sure. So I feel like it's really common for people to say that maybe they scrapbooked or things like that, but I've not done any of that. I kind of just jumped straight into journaling, really, in terms of paper crafts. And then recently I picked up crochet and taught myself kind of during lockdown. But other than that, they're kind of my 2 main crafts, really. I don't know about you.
Barbara, would you like to answer?
Yes. So I've done so many crafts before junk journaling. I've been crafting all my life, basically. I've been drawing, I've been painting, I've been doing crochet, needlework, knitting, photography for a really long time, card making. And what I love is that we can incorporate most of these things into our junk journals, which is probably why I love junk journaling so much, because it's such a mishmash of everything. And I don't think I'll ever get bored of it because of that.
Great. And I'll give my answer too. Have done same as Barbara. I think I've done just about every craft out there. So I've been into jewelry making. I used to do stained glass with recycled glass. I was into photography, crochet, sewing, card making, scrapbooking. It's just everywhere. And I agree with you, Barbara. I feel the same way about junk journaling. There's so many techniques and things that I've learned as other crafts that I've done that fit so well into junk journaling, just seamlessly. Like, you can crochet something and put it in, to your junk journal. You can make dangles, which is kind of like jewelry making, to go on, this fine. So I think that I agree with you. I feel like I will never get tired of junk journaling because there's so many other things that I can incorporate into it.
Right. Aren't we all so lucky to have this passion in our lives? I don't know what I would do without it, honestly.
Yes, I agree.
Moving on, I think I have question number 3. This is a longer one with multiple parts. I struggle with organizing all my supplies. I think a lot of us can relate. Do you have any tips to make it more manageable? How much space do you allow for your supplies? Do you have an art room, a corner of a room, or a few containers of supplies? So if it's okay, I'd like to just go ahead and answer that. So if you've watched any of my previous podcasts, you will know that behind me here is my craft closet, which I love so much. And this is part of my living room. So I don't have a craft room. I don't have any other dedicated craft space. I craft and film on my dining table. And I'm slowly moving on into the rest of the living room. I don't think my hubby is noticing too much, but it's a struggle all the time. And I think the only way to make that work is to try to contain it as much as possible by decluttering regularly. I'm actually in the middle of a decluttering session again. I have had a few videos up once this one is up. And I need to continue to declutter all the time. I use various methods, from the KonMari method to fun challenges, just to make it more interesting and fun and less daunting, because it is such a daunting task, I think, to try to declutter. But I think when you try to put it into smaller bits, then it can be done over a period of time. Otherwise, your craft supplies just explodes. I mean, I started with a few boxes, as I think probably every junk journaler does. But it just accumulates and accumulates, and I don't know where it's all coming from, but it's crazy. So containment is the only option for me. So yeah. How about you, Sharon? How do you do it?
Well, I wouldn't say that I do it. I craft. My room is it's a small room. It is a room, but it's in our basement. So it's kind of dark in there. There's a very small window, but I have collected so much stuff over the years, and a lot of the crafts that I used to do, I still have the supplies for those in there as well. So I have boxes everywhere. Now I do try to keep it out of the rest of the house. But occasionally I will, put things into a box and bring them up and work, while I'm watching TV or something like that. But I am looking for tips from you guys as well in terms of organization. Now, the tips that I do have, especially for me working in a small space like that, is to keep any supplies that you use regularly near you, because I think that makes it much easier to continue to craft without having to get up and go to a drawer or something like that. And the other tip that I have would be labeling. So I know that I have lots of drawers and bins and different things. And if I don't label them, I spend too much time looking around for things. Yeah. But I will take Barbara's advice, and I think I'm going to have to start a declutter project coming up soon.
Oh, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Meg, any tips for us or the viewers?
I feel like we're all asking each other for tips, really, aren't we?
Yes,
in terms of organization.
Please.
So I have a pretty small space, so I kind of share like one side of a room. So as long as it doesn't spill over onto the other side, then I'm okay. But I find that, like Sharon, you said about having things kind of nearby. I got it's not an IKEA Raskog cart, it's like a knockoff version, but I have that kind of now next to my desk so that I'm able to kind of reach for things and keep things organized that way. And I find that really useful. I also have just a small kind of cube shelf type thing just to kind of put all my books, because I had them just kind of in stacks, and that was kind of getting a bit annoying. So I feel kind of like compartmentalizing things and keeping things together. So like, don't know, all of my kind of like embroidery thread in one place, all of my scrap papers in a folder. I think that kind of helps with keeping things organized and not having things kind of spilling everywhere. But I do think that because I have a bit of a small space, I am kind of a bit more ruthless with what I can keep, because like I physically cannot keep all the things. And so I kind of have to make that call, especially when, with junk journaling, all the things you could collect. Sometimes I kind of have to look at like a bunch of papers and be like, am I really going to get around to using those, or am I just hoarding them? So yeah, due to my space. But I feel like if I had a bigger space, maybe I wouldn't be as good with that. I don't know.
Well, I can definitely. Sorry. Go ahead, Sharon.
I just said it's not always easy, because you're right. I think you grow into a space oftentimes. So
yeah, I think the more space you have, the more you are going to accumulate and keep. And I think that's one advantage of not having that much space. I've actually mentioned this in a previous episode talking with Louisa Heinzel. When you have a smaller space, you have to keep it confined. And the upside of that is you don't get so overwhelmed with your supplies, because you just cannot have as much. I mean, I'm still overwhelmed by the amount I have, but still, it's not as bad as if I had a whole room.
So the next question that I have, it's actually quite a big question, really. So it is, what is the biggest fulfillment this craft has brought you and your life? If it's easier to answer in parts, you may. So you personally, what the community has given you, and maybe business-wise. So I can touch kind of on the first 2 points because I don't really have like a business out of any of this. It's very much just a hobby for me. So I think like the community aspect, I think, is probably one of the strongest parts of this, because being able to share with people who actually understand what a junk journal is and, you know, why I'm collecting piles of just envelopes and random napkins and things, you know, when you go places, is a really nice feeling to be able to share that. And then I also really like junk journaling just because I feel like you're able to really push yourself creatively with turning like some random scrap that, you know, let's face it, should go in the recycling bin, and seeing how you can turn that into something that's both usable and actually looks nice rather than just whatever it was in the first place. So that is something that I really enjoy with junk journaling. So how about you, Sharon?
I kind of was looking at all the 3 different sides of it. And personally, for me, I really feel like it's helped me grow. It's grown me as an artist. So as I have been trying to do different techniques or incorporate things from other crafts into this, I really feel like it's helped me grow just as an artist in general. But I would agree with you. The community has been amazing. And the biggest thing I can say about community is that I have friends now from all over the world. And that's really exciting to me, just because seeing everybody work on this craft and do the amazing things that they do, I think has been, you know, inspirational to me. And I love that, you know, I have friends from so many different countries now all over the world. I think that part's been great as well.
And how about you, Barbara?
I completely agree with everything both of you have said, and I'm not going to repeat that, but I would just like to add that, of course, for me personally and business-wise, of course, the biggest fulfillment is that I am able to do this as like a full-time job, as a business, and it's what I love most in my life. So how special is that? And I can't imagine anything being more fulfilling. And paired with this amazing community and also the friends I've made internationally and everything the community gives us and what they share with us, like the emails they send us, the happy mails we receive, it's all just amazing. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. So I will be forever grateful for that. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Sharon, you have another one for us.
Yes, the next question is, this one's a little bit of a long one too. I saw in a post that you love technology. How do you feel like art and technology go together in your life? How much time do you need for the technical side of your social media, YouTube, editing your posts, etc.? So I'll take this one first. I think that I'm probably, while I love calling myself an artist, I'm also a technologist. I came from technology in a corporate job that I had done. And so I love technology. I love figuring it out. I love doing it. And so I have incorporated that into what I do with junk journals through the digitals that I design. And I really believe that creating digitals like that is really just cutting, gluing, painting on paper just on your computer. And so I really feel like I can express myself creatively through that technology. But I will say, I've also feel like even the mundane things I do for technology, like I'm working on my website or something like that, because it makes my mind work, I really feel like that it helps me be creative, even doing those kinds of little things. So, and the time that it takes me to do things is probably too much sometimes. I think sometimes I over edit and, you know, overthink my posts and things I'm writing and things like that, but I enjoy every minute of it. So that's how I feel like technology fits into my life. So Meg, how about you? What do you think about technology and art?
I think it's really interesting, like having gone from not being able to like do any kind of video editing and things like that to being able to learn how to do that through sharing on YouTube and even Instagram, kind of getting to grips with that dreaded algorithm and everything like that we kind of don't really want to talk about. But, you know, sometimes it can be quite difficult to have that pressure on you always. You know, you spend your time creating, and then in the back of your mind to have like, you know, this is being filmed, or, oh, I need something to share. Sometimes it's a little bit challenging kind of juggling that pressure. And sometimes I've kind of sat here and thought, well, maybe I just shouldn't share and just create for myself, which has been really, really helpful. So I've got a lot more of a relaxed approach now to kind of managing my kind of social media, things like that, posting on Instagram. But I guess I don't run like a business. So I know, Barbara, you probably have a lot more to say kind of on that side of things. But since I've kind of taken a step back and been a lot more relaxed with it, I found the pressure's kind of dropped for me, and I've enjoyed it a lot more sharing things. But, you know, things like the Junk Journal January that we just wrapped up. Obviously, technology's been great for that in terms of kind of coordinating the collabs and sharing videos and seeing everyone's work. So yeah, I think it's really great to have the technology side of things helping us in that sense. So how about you, Barbara?
Yeah, I dare to say that not only the technology is helping us, but that it is absolutely necessary in this day and age to stay relevant doing what we do, because being a YouTube creator means today, to be successful, you always need to stay on top of it. You need to stay on top of things that have changed. YouTube constantly is changing things, and you have to be aware of these changes, as well as Instagram. You need to keep up with trends, more or less. I mean, crafting is probably not such a trendy topic as other topics, but still, you know, there are things that have a specific time where they work better than others. And I personally always try to make time for research, just to see how can I optimize my videos, what can I do in addition, how can I improve. There's so many things that we can learn on a continual basis. I mean, I've had my channel now for 4 years, but I still have a feeling I have so much to learn. And what's really fun is if you look at a video that you made a few years ago, and I've just done that actually yesterday by coincidence, I stumbled upon a video that I filmed 3 years ago. Oh my goodness. I was so close to just hitting that delete button, but I didn't. But in a way, I'm so happy about that experience, because it shows me how far I've come since then. So I hope that in 3 years, watching something I've made in these days, I'm going to cringe just the same. I mean that I have developed even more. So I am actually putting in a lot of effort into optimizing things and seeing how can I edit better. And I love the editing process. There's so many fun things you can do with the editing, but it takes so much time. And I think a part of that question, Sharon, was how much time is dedicated to that as opposed to the crafting or the creative side. I would even go as far as saying the technology side takes up at least 70%, and the creative side really 30 at the very most. And that is something you maybe don't realize when you start a channel, that, you know, you're sharing your passion, you're sharing your crafting, but in reality, everything that comes with it is so much more time. It takes up so much more time than the actual crafting. So that was definitely a surprise to me as well. But it's okay. I like doing it, and it's really an incredible journey that we're on.
And like you said, I think you're right. I think it's inevitable. We have to be doing those things to be able to, you know, share with the outside world. You know, we're not going to, you know, craft classes as much as we used to, and those kinds of things. And I think if you want to stay relevant, you have to keep up with the technology. So. Right.
And I don't know about YouTube. I mean, Meg, you've mentioned it now, but Sharon, maybe you can also say, because I find that when I craft on my own, I kind of feel bad when I don't turn on the camera, because I'm thinking, well, this might be interesting for my viewers. And then I end up filming it. So I have so little time where I just craft for myself, because I always kind of feel guilty. Like, I should be sharing this. Someone could benefit from it. Somebody could be inspired by it, you know? I don't know, Sharon, do you have a similar view? Yes?
I do. It's, you know, you always want to be sharing. And I think that this is something that we enjoy to do in community. And so if you're sitting there in your room crafting all by yourself, it's kind of like, well, I should be sharing this. I should be doing, this with someone else. So yes, I have some of that. Although I will say I have been trying to lately take, even a half an hour just to myself, just to sort of refresh myself, to do the craft for, sort of my own reset kind of thing. So How about you, Meg?
Yes, I think lately I've kind of learned a lot more about the value of taking the time to kind of, craft for myself, because I just feel like it's very easy to get on that like bit of a hamster wheel almost of, creating things to share, which I take your point, Barbara, I think is really helpful, sharing with the community and with your viewers and things. But like, I kind of sometimes find that detrimental to kind of just enjoying it myself. I kind of don't want that pressure sometimes. And I do kind of feel bad sometimes if I've done like, a bunch of stuff in my journal and I've not shared it, or I have like a completely off camera journal that I work on that I don't share anywhere. I think I've maybe done a sneak peek of it on Instagram, but other than that, I don't share it anywhere. And I just see that as kind of like a safe space for myself to make mistakes, to learn things, and to just not have that pressure, because I just think that as an artist to be able to kind of grow in things, having that safe space is really important, and not feeling like pressured to do something just to share it on like Instagram or YouTube. And I think that from doing that, I found then that the things that I am sharing, even if it's a little bit less, I'm coming to it with a much better mindset, in a much better space. And the things that I'm able to share, I feel a lot more proud of them, because sometimes if I'm just creating and I'm not really liking where it's going, but I've got to post a YouTube video, I don't want to put something out that maybe I'm not proud of, or that isn't kind of what I want to share. So that's kind of what I've been learning over the past kind of year or so, to not kind of put that pressure on myself. But I also understand that I'm not running any of this as a business, so I know that it's a lot different if you kind of have that in the back of your mind as well. So
right, but that's very valuable insights. I need to do that more myself, just to not film and not have that kind of pressure. I think that would be very beneficial, and I will try to work on that. Thank you, Meg. Okay, moving on. Who do we have? Oh, it's my turn. Would love to know what you find most surprising about the junk journal community. That's such a cute question. I would say when I started, I was so surprised how welcoming this community is. And I think all of us experience that on a daily basis. I mean, the feedback we get, the comments, the emails, as I mentioned before, the happy mails that we receive, all as a thank you for what we do, is just absolutely amazing. And I don't know if there's any other niche on YouTube that has that. That amazes me every single day. Sharon, how about you?
Well, I was going to say, I think that's kind of my answer too. I am always amazed I follow different people in different niches, and I don't think that their viewers are as supportive as the junk journal community. Even on Instagram, I really think that it's so welcoming and friendly and supportive and encouraging. I really find that that's amazing about this community. But I will say, the other thing that I find surprising, well, actually it's not surprising, but it surprises me every day to see how ingenious everybody is with the crafts that they come up with. I mean, you just go on to find a little bit of inspiration, and I'm always down a rabbit hole of, I'm like, wow, how did they take that little piece of junk and make it into this amazing thing? Like, that always surprises me.
Yeah, mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing.
Yes.
Meg, what about you? What surprised you?
Yes, I would agree. I was going to say it's just so amazing to see kind of how creative people are with their supplies and different things. And it's almost like, just when you think people have done absolutely everything and nothing new can possibly be done, Barbara or whoever will post a video, and you think, wow, I've never thought to do that. So yeah, that's kind of, again, like you said, Sharon, not surprising, but yeah, it's definitely amazing to see. Okay, so the next question that I have, it's a little bit of a long one. So what about journaling or creating keeps you motivated when you don't feel like it for a whole week or more? I find myself in this situation sometimes, just not motivated. Also, how much time do you spend or set aside for creating artwork daily, weekly, or is your art studio time spontaneous without limits? So there's two sections to this. So we'll do the first one in terms of motivation. And when I'm not motivated to do anything, I don't do it. I go and do something else. I maybe work on my crochet, go for a walk, just completely set it aside. And I think, again, that's kind of a bit related to what I mentioned before about kind of taking the pressure off. But, if I'm not motivated to do it, then am I going to enjoy sitting down and forcing myself to do it? Or is there just something else I can do and then come back when I want to work on it? And I think that having that approach is quite valuable, but then also doing maybe like little challenges or just spending 5 minutes is also a great way if you kind of want to build up that momentum. But I definitely kind of approach it with almost like baby steps. So don't go, oh, I've not like journaled for a whole week. Now I've got to sit down for 5 hours and catch up on things. Like there's no junk journal police coming after you because you've not done anything all week. Like at the end of the day, we all have lives and other things going on. So if we don't have the time to do it that week, there's no police coming after you. That's what I would say. How about you, Sharon?
I agree with you. I think that motivation, sometimes to remotivate yourself, you need to step away. So I like to dive into some other crafts or maybe do something completely different. Go for a hike, get outside, exercise a little bit. I think those are the kinds of things that help inspire me to go back later, to be motivated to do that, because I think there's value to kind of just setting aside and making yourself go and do something. But I also, for me, when motivation seems low, I just need to change my direction and get my mind doing something else. And then I feel like inspired to go back oftentimes.
I definitely understand both of those approaches. While at the same time, I know from myself that if the longer I stay away from junk journaling, the harder it is for me to come back and to feel that momentum again. And sometimes the only way to get back into it for me, and especially if you have the pressure of making a couple of videos every week, I just sit down at my craft desk. I take my papers and my junk journal in my hands and I start playing with them. And then instantly I feel the joy, I feel the spark, and I'm motivated and I'm 100% in there. And I know if I'm just going to keep sitting on the couch or if I'm somewhere else, my mind is somewhere else and I'm never going to have that thing to spark something in me. Yes, what does happen is for example, if I go for a walk, I of course have all these things in my mind. And then a lot of times I get ideas, but these are more like the bigger ideas. Like I get an idea for, I don't know, a challenge or a specific video or something. But if I want to create something right now and I feel like I'm not motivated, a walk isn't going to help me. Then I really need to play with my papers in order to come up with something. I don't know. That's how it works for me.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all different, and how, what inspires us. And I think sometimes I feel both, sometimes I need to step away and sometimes it's important for me to just go down and, like you said, get my hands in those papers and start making something.
And the second part of the question with how much time you spend creating your artwork and whether it's spontaneous or not. So for me, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. So I'm on a very strict schedule of working during the week and then I have weekends. I mean, I have evenings, but like I'm tired from work, so I don't really want to be doing much then. So I kind of do a lot of my junk journaling and just general journaling on the weekends when I have time. So it's all about finding small pockets of time for me with my schedule. So maybe you can relate if you've also got like a busy schedule and things, just being able to find 5 or 10 minutes to sit down and kind of play with your papers or, I don't know, work on a little challenge or something like that, I think is really helpful. And again, not kind of putting pressure on yourself to sit down for hours on end or feeling like if you haven't got like time to sit down for hours on end that you're somehow not doing it correctly. That's just as valuable to spend kind of those 5 or 10 minutes. And sometimes if you are not feeling motivated and you do start sitting down, like Barbara said, you can sometimes sit up like 3 hours later and think, oh my goodness, where has the time gone? I was just doing loads of crafting. I don't know if you've had that before, but yeah, that's kind of the approach I have is I find the time when I have the time, but it's also about making the time and prioritizing like, this is something I want to do. So I will find the time to do it. So how about you, Barbara?
I'm very lucky because I'm in a situation where I'm very flexible with my time. Since I do this full time, I can, be creative whenever I want. And sometimes this is the first thing in the morning, or sometimes I get up in the middle of the night because I have something going around in my head and I cannot sleep. I don't know if either of you know that situation. And sometimes I don't feel like, being creative the whole day, but I'll do it at 11 p.m. at night. So thankfully, I have that freedom and I can just juggle my time around whenever I want. But I've realized that is super rare. And so I know I'm super lucky with that. Sharon, how about you?
Well, I do have an outside job. It's part-time, I don't have to work at it every day, but it's still, something that I have to schedule into my day. Now, that is also very flexible. I don't have specific hours that I work every week. I can kind of work whenever I want to. So that leaves me to be very flexible with my crafting time as well. So I can, head down to my room in the morning or at night. So I do try to schedule it though. My word of the year is rhythm, and I'm trying to get into some rhythms this year. And that's one of the things that I'd really like to work on is scheduling or blocking some time to get into my room and to just create and play and, record if I'm, ready to do that or something like that. So I will say right now, I'm still kind of at the point where sometimes I'll head down to my room, just on a whim. I usually don't, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes I look up and it's 3 hours later, Meg, like you said, like, I don't know where the time goes sometimes, but I feel like more often than not, like it's like, oh, I need to run down and try to get, an hour in if I can on some days. And then other days, it's much more relaxed where I feel like I can get into my room and spend a couple hours. So right now it really depends, but I am trying to work on my rhythms so that I can be more consistent, because I think I'd feel better and less pressure if I could just be more consistent about it.
Do you work from home, Sharon, or do you go to an office?
I do.
You work from home.
I work from home. Some days I have a meeting. So I work actually at a winery.
Oh,
and it's a small winery. And the woman who owns it, she, makes the wine and everything. And I pretty much do everything else. We meet about once a week. And then the rest I can just do from home. So
that's awesome.
It is. It's really nice.
Yeah.
I know that I'm lucky too.
Sounds amazing. And since you just told us your word of the year, I would love to know, Meg, do you have a word of the year?
So I don't really have a word of the year, but one thing I'm working on is consistency and kind of keeping up with certain habits. So I have like a written journal that I work on. So trying to do that every day. I have the Daily Stoic book that I'm reading that just has like a passage per day to read. So I'm really trying to work on kind of small, consistent habits. Junk Journal January was a great way to start off with that as well. So that's kind of my main focus. Do you have a word too?
No, actually, I don't. I was just thinking I should have one. I was just thinking now maybe I could use like optimize or something. And this year I want to be about like optimizing, streamlining, growing in the technology side more and in that direction. So we'll see where that goes.
Well, you'll have to let us know if you come up with one.
I will. No pressure, huh?
No.
So we have one final question. I love to create journals, but find it hard to work in them, creating collages, etc., because I think they should be perfect. I'd love some inspiration on overcoming this more. I think that's one that many can relate to as well, with the wanting to make it perfect. But I'd like to kind of put out there, what is a perfect junk journal? What in your eyes would make a perfect junk journal? What is the perfect junk journal entry? I don't know. That's a weird question for me because every junk journal is so individual. And for me, like when I look at how do I use my junk journals, it's about documenting what's happening in my life, things that I experience. A lot of times it's just a visual diary, but it's always basically a snapshot of either what I'm feeling or what I'm going through, something I have on my mind. So I'm thinking anything I put in that journal is just going to be the perfect documentation of that moment. I don't really know how else you would define a perfect junk journal spread or page. So I don't think there's anything you can do wrong, because whatever you put in there is going to be perfect. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Meg? What would you say?
So I think what this question kind of has under the surface is a lot of comparison and kind of maybe looking at other people's journals and thinking, oh, well, mine doesn't look like that. But I think the important thing to remember is that, like, even within junk journaling, we're all so different and individual and unique. And that's kind of what's so great about junk journaling. Like, there are no rules. There's no correct way to junk journal. You know, it's all about whatever works for you. And I think, yeah, like you said, Barbara, there's no like perfect junk journal page. It's all just kind of about having fun, documenting your life if you want to do it that way too, and just kind of using it as, you know, a bit of a creative expression. So I think to kind of maybe get past that, I mean, I don't know, I think it's something that I've also been working on with, like, the pressure thing, and kind of, you know, looking at just what I'm creating, say, rather than, you know, what's going on in because there's always so many like ideas and inspiration and everything floating around, and sometimes it can kind of be hard to just kind of think like, right, I'm just gonna like do my own thing. You know, if you think like it's not like, I don't know, if there's a trend and everyone's doing a certain thing, but you maybe don't like that, or, you know, you're not enjoying that, just go for it and do what you want to do in your journal, because at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying it, then what's the point? So, you know, I would prioritize enjoying it over perfectionism, if you will. What do you think, Sharon, about this?
When I read the question, it made me think that this person is, you know, they're creating the journals, but then they're not using them. So, like, I think that they're looking around, like you said, Meg, they're looking around and seeing other people make spreads in their journals and collaging in there and doing, you know, junk journal pages and things like that. But I think that just the creating part may be enough for some people. I know a lot of creators who don't journal at all, but they love making junk journals. So that is their expression of creativity. And I think that the book itself can be your expression, your own personal expression of who you are as an artist. So even if you don't do anything in those books and you just flip through them and, you know, take the tags out and flip them over and are, you know, handling it, and if other people can do that too, I really believe that that's enough. So if you're feeling like you must create in a journal, then you need to step back, because I don't think that that's true for everybody. You should do it if you're comfortable doing that. And like Meg and Barbara said, you know, the perfection of doing that kind of thing is very personal. And if you like creating inside of a junk journal, go ahead and do it. But if you don't want to, I think that just even getting in there and creating those journals is a wonderful expression of, you know, creating the art itself.
That's a very valid point, Sharon, actually. Who's going to tell us we have to create in our journals? And even if we buy one, even if we don't make it ourselves, if we buy one and we just enjoy flipping through it, that's it. That brings us joy, and that's it.
Yeah, I think as well, maybe there's almost a fear of like ruining the journal. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know if you guys had any kind of tips on like when you kind of warm up in a journal, what you do to start a journal. Do you go from front to back, or do you just pick random pages? Like, what is your kind of approach to that? Because I sometimes feel like breaking in a journal is a little bit daunting, but once I'm in there, it's fine. And I've done a few pages, but that first kind of, you know, pencil mark or gluing something down feels like a really big decision sometimes.
Yeah, that's definitely true. The first time, I mean, yeah, you always have the feeling you might ruin the junk journal, but I would say a good start would be to not start on the first page, because I think the first page is the most pressure. So start anywhere in the journal and pick a page that is not completely blank, maybe, because if there's already something on the page, it might inspire you to put something else on and to add something else on. And I think it's great to just start by gluing down some scraps. That's easy to do. You can't go wrong with it. And you've taken the pressure away because you've already put something down on that page, and you can just keep adding.
I think another way to do that would be to even start outside of the journal. If you're afraid, you know, to get that first page done, creating on a separate page that you can slide into the journal, or, you know, that you can attach into the journal as a flip, or something like that, where if, you do it outside of the journal and you're not crazy about it, you can always start over again and put it inside the journal. So that's another maybe idea to, get started in a new journal without feeling the pressure of, ruining it or something, even though I'm not sure that's possible.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip as well. And also you have to keep in mind, if you do something in that journal that you don't like, you can always cover it up. That's the great thing about journaling. You can always glue something over it, paint over it. You can always start over.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great one to finish off our podcast. So thank you so much, Meg and Sharon. I loved having you here. And thank you so much to all of you watching. Meg, Sharon, any last words you would like to share?
First of all, I just wanted to thank you, Barbara, for inviting me on. This was so much fun. I love talking about junk journals in whatever capacity. And Meg, it was so nice to meet you in person. It was fun sharing this time with you. And to everybody, thanks so much for watching.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. It's been wonderful to organise this and also have a video podcast, which I've never done before. So that's been a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks for organising this. It's been really fun.
Thank you. So everybody, hope to see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye-bye.